Good morning. I'm here today to announce that the program known as DACA that was effectuated under the Obama administration is being rescinded. The DACA program was implemented in 2012 and essentially provided a legal status for recipients for a renewable 2-year term, work authorization, and other benefits, including participation in the Social Security program, to 800,000 mostly adult illegal aliens. The policy was implemented unilaterally to great controversy and legal concern after Congress rejected legislative proposals to extend similar benefits on numerous occasions to this same group of illegal aliens. In other words, the executive branch, through DACA, deliberately sought to achieve what the legislative branch specifically refused to authorize on multiple occasions. Such an open-ended circumvention of immigration laws was an unconstitutional exercise of authority by the executive branch. The effect of this unilateral executive amnesty, among other things, contributed to a surge of minors at the southern border that yielded terrible humanitarian consequences. It also denied jobs to hundreds of thousands of Americans by allowing those same illegal aliens to take those jobs. We inherited from our founders and have advanced an unsurpassed legal heritage, which is the foundation of our freedom, our safety, and our prosperity. As Attorney General, it is my duty to ensure that the laws of the United States are enforced and that the constitutional order is upheld. No greater good for the overall health and well-being of our republic than preserving and strengthening the impartial rule of law. Societies where the rule of law is treasured are societies that tend to flourish and succeed. Societies where the rule of law is subject to political whims and personal biases tend to become societies afflicted by corruption, poverty, and human suffering. To have a lawful system of immigration that serves the national interest, we cannot admit everyone who would like to come here. It's just that simple. That would be an open borders policy, and the American people have rightly rejected that. Therefore, the nation must set and enforce a limit on how many immigrants we admit each year, and that means all cannot be accepted. This does not mean they are bad people or that our nation disrespects or demeans them in any way. It means we are properly enforcing our laws as Congress has passed them. It is with these principles and duties in mind, and in light of imminent litigation, that we reviewed the Obama administration's DACA policy. Our collective wisdom is that the policy is vulnerable to the same legal and constitutional challenges that the courts recognized with respect to the DAPA program, which was enjoined on a nationwide basis in a decision that was affirmed by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. The Fifth Circuit specifically concluded that DACA had not been implemented in a fashion that allowed sufficient discretion and that DAPA was foreclosed by Congress's careful plan, close quote. In other words, the immigration law that Congress passed foreclosed this possibility of DACA. In other words, it was inconsistent with the Constitution's separation of powers. That decision was affirmed by the Supreme Court on an equally undivided basis. If we were to keep the Obama administration's executive amnesty policy, the likeliest outcome is that it would too be enjoined just as was DAPA. The Department of Justice has advised the President and the Department of Homeland Security that the Department of Homeland Security should begin an orderly, lawful wind down, including the cancellation of the memo that authorized this program. Acting Secretary Duke has chosen appropriately to initiate a wind-down process. This will enable the Department of Homeland Security to conduct an orderly change and fulfill the desire of this administration to create a time period for Congress to act, should it so choose. We firmly believe this is the responsible path. Simply put, if we are to further our goal of strengthening the constitutional order and the rule of law in America, the Department of Justice cannot defend this overreach. George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley, in testimony before the House Judiciary Committee, was clear about the enormous constitutional infirmities raised by this action. He said, quote, in his testimony, "In ordering this blanket exception, President Obama was nullifying part of a law that he simply disagreed with. If a president can claim sweeping discretion to suspend key federal laws, the entire legislative process becomes little more than a pretense. The circumvention of the legislative process not only undermines the authority of this branch," he's referring to the legislative branch, "but destabilizes the tripartite system as a whole." So this is not a little matter. Ending the previous administration's disrespect for the legislative process is an important first step. All immigration policies should serve the interests of the people of the United States, lawful immigrant and native-born alike. Congress should carefully and thoughtfully pursue the types of reforms that are right for the American people. Our nation is comprised of good and decent people who want their government's leaders to fulfill their promises and advance an immigration policy that serves the national interest. We are people of compassion and we are people of law. But there is nothing compassionate about the failure to enforce immigration laws. Enforcing the law saves lives, protects communities and taxpayers, and prevents human suffering. Failure to enforce the laws in the past has put our nation at risk of crime, violence, and terrorism. The compassionate thing to do is end the lawlessness, enforce our laws, and if Congress chooses to make changes to those laws, to do so through the process set forth by our founders in a way that advances the interests of the American people. That is what the President has promised to do and has delivered to the American people. Under President Trump's leadership, this administration has made great progress in the last few months toward establishing a lawful and constitutional immigration system. This makes us safer and more secure. It will further, economically, the lives of millions who are struggling, and it will enable our country to more effectively teach new immigrants about our system of government and to assimilate them to the cultural understandings that support it. The substantial progress in reducing illegal immigration at our border seen in recent months is almost entirely due to the leadership of President Trump and his inspired immigration officers. But the problem is not yet solved, and without more action, we could see illegality rise again rather than be eliminated. As a candidate and now in office, President Trump has offered specific ideas and legislative solutions that will protect American workers, increase wages and salaries, defend the national security, ensure the public safety, and increase the general well-being of the American people. He has worked closely with many members of Congress, including in the introduction of the RAISE Act, which would produce enormous benefits for our country. And this is how our democratic process works. There are many powerful interest groups in the country, and every one of them has a constitutional right to advocate their views and represent whomever they choose. But the Department of Justice does not represent any narrow interest or any subset of the American people. We represent all the American people and protect the integrity of our Constitution. That is our charge. We at the Department of Justice are proud and honored to work to advance this vision for America and to do our best each day to ensure the safety and security of the American people. Thank you very much.
Please, the personal information of DACA recipients.
Will you move to deport the Dreamers, Attorney General?
So that was Attorney General Jeff Sessions announcing that the DACA program is being rescinded. The approximately 800,000 undocumented immigrants / illegal immigrants who were in this country, who came here as young people, who came here as children, during or before 2007, they have under DACA gotten 2-year renewable permits to stay and work in the country. Those permits will no longer be issued. Unless Congress passes a DACA law, those people will now be officially illegal, not allowed to be in the country. Will they be thrown out of the country? That remains to be seen. Will Congress pass a DACA law? That remains to be seen. But the big news we just saw, Jeff Sessions said, the administration thinks President Obama's DACA declaration was illegal. He didn't have the legal power to do that. Jeff Sessions kept emphasizing, we are a country of laws. We want the rule of law to prevail. It's bad for the country if the president doesn't respect the rule of law. And he really couched this announcement in President Obama did not respect the rule of law. This is not law. The President Obama didn't have the legal authority to do this. And that's why we're getting rid of the DACA program. And at the same time, he said it's up to Congress to decide what laws they think are best for the country. I don't know if I heard anything about a 6-month window in there for Congress to pass a law. I don't recall it, but again, I didn't hear every single word. I was kind of listening and doing stuff here. So, I'd say I heard 90% of the speech. So, anyways, this is the post show. What do you think about what Jeff Sessions just said? What do you think about the president's policy where he has said he will no longer support DACA and that he will no longer issue these DACA permits, and now it's up to Congress to decide if they want to have DACA? What do you think? Write to me on Twitter. Let me know. This is the post show for the Jeff Sessions announcement of President Trump's policy. This is Right Side Broadcasting. Write to me at Lookner, at Lookner, and we will read your comments on the air right now. As long as they're clean, we'll read them. Also, if you like having an alternative to the mainstream media to do this kind of coverage, we are viewer supported. So if you like our coverage, if you enjoy our post show and our pre-show, please consider making a donation. You can go to the chat room right next to the broadcast and click on the $ at the bottom of the chat room, or just go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. Your donations help us do coverage like this, help us do the full day coverage of President Trump's rallies, help us cover breaking news. So we thank you for that. Okay, let's get to your messages, your comments. Write to me at Lookner on Twitter. We're going to read what your comments have to say right now. Let's see. Black and Proud writes, Trump is in the promise-keeping business. I have never seen a president try so hard to keep his promises. Very encouraging. Let's see. Ryan Rowley writes, Congress makes the law, the executive branch enforces the law, not the other way around. So it sounds like you two support Jeff Sessions' announcement. Official Kuhai Amvi says, in order for a Republican to support a DACA bill, they might demand wall funding or immigration reform, is what I meant. So you think that maybe as Congress decides on a DACA bill, some of the Republicans, what you're saying is if Republicans are going to vote for a DACA bill, and some of them will have to since Republicans are the majority in Congress, maybe the way they end up voting for the bill is they get the bill to have something in it like wall funding as well as a DACA or something like that. So it's going to be interesting to see what Congress does now. Now it's up to Congress. If Congress doesn't pass a DACA bill, DACA will no longer be, it sounds like as of right now, as of this moment, no DACA permits are being issued. So what I'm a little confused about is if someone has a DACA permit that expires tomorrow, I didn't hear Jeff Sessions say anything about like, well, we're going to let permits that are expiring tomorrow go for an extra 6 months or something. So if somebody's DACA permit expires tomorrow, as of 2 days from now, are they now officially illegal in this country, illegally here? I need some clarification on that. Anyways, write to me. Let me know what you thought of this announcement at Lookner on Twitter, at Lookner on Twitter. We Will Prevail says Sessions is throwing the ball to Congress. I hope they combine the RAISE Act with DACA. Now, the RAISE Act, I forget what the RAISE Act is. I don't even remember. The RAISE Act is the bill the bill seeks to reduce levels of legal immigration to the United States by 50%. So it's reducing the amount of immigrants who can come to the United States. Texas Cowboy writes, what Sessions said is spot on. Obama's order was unconstitutional and should be rescinded. The law is the law. Polly Shop says, you guys have problems. The United Nations Human Rights Council is going to love this, and your lawyers, oh boy. I'm not sure exactly what you mean, Polly Shop, because I believe any country has I don't think the United Nations normally steps in and tries to make countries' immigrations policies for them. Now, they could issue some kind of thing saying they disapprove of the policy or something, but I don't think they can sue in any kind of court the United States. Gary Crunk says, Steve, he did not give a 6-month timeline. He merely said that DACA would be drawn down, meaning not an instant stop. Yes, you're right. He did say drawn down. Now that I remember that, he did say something, we're going to be drawing down the policy. But again, it's an interesting question. If you're somebody who's here on DACA, so you came here as a child 10 years ago or 15 years ago or 20 years ago, and you have a 2-year permit, and your permit expires, say, a week from now, for all you know right now, you're not going to get another permit. So you might think, so those people are in a quite, they're probably quite worried right now because they don't know what in their families and stuff. So that's one aspect of this, because there was no guarantee made to people that they would get another permit for any amount of time, even if it expires tomorrow. Now it sounds like they're not going to just start enforcing it tomorrow or in 2 days, but this again remains to be seen. I'm sure there'll be a ton of questions. Whenever the next White House press briefing is, there'll be a ton of questions about this. Colonel Ben Bannister writes, a perfect statement from Attorney General Sessions regarding where the Trump administration stands on DACA. Well laid out. Ronald says, one good thing when they protest, they all will be in one place, really easy to get them, LOL, stupid people. Now, Ronald, I just want to make clear, we here at Right Side Broadcasting do not endorse violence in any way, shape, or form, no matter who it's towards or what it's towards. I guess you could say there's self-defense things, but I don't consider that violence in the meaning of the word violence. So we just want to put out there that we do not endorse violence toward anyone about anything, basically. Ronald says, President Lincoln warned us not to change the Constitution, and Obama made a number of changes that I am not happy with. And I think you mean by that, Ronald, that he made policies that you feel were unconstitutional, like DACA. You're watching Right Side Broadcasting's post show for the Jeff Sessions announcement of President Trump's policy that he is rescinding DACA. He will no longer issue permits for people who came into the country as children, in 2007 or before, to stay in the country. And they're rescinding the policy. It's now up to Congress to decide if they want to pass a DACA law. But as of now, the DACA law has been rescinded. The DACA policy, which was not a law, is being rescinded. Jeff Sessions said over and over again, he said, this policy declared by President Obama, we feel was not constitutionally legal for President Obama to do. We feel that President Obama didn't have the constitutional power to do this. This nation is a rule of law, and we cannot allow that rule of law to be subverted by actions which don't go along with it. He said these aren't bad. This doesn't mean we think that the people here on DACA are bad people. He just says we're committed to rule of law, and that is something which we've heard Jeff Sessions say about many different policy areas. He says it about when with mandatory sentencing, he doesn't want. Earlier this year he announced that he was doing away with the Justice Department's under President Obama, the Justice Department had declared these rules, this guidance where they said, hey, try to minimize kind of like sentencing for, certain kinds of nonviolent drug offenders. And Jeff Sessions came back and he said, look, these sentences are on the law, so I'm instructing the Justice Department to go after the maximum sentence that they are able to provide evidence for, because pursue the crime with the maximum sentence and pursue that maximum sentence, because those are the laws and we have to enforce the laws. That's something Jeff Sessions feels very strongly, and apparently President Trump does too. But what do you think about this? What do you think about this announcement that DACA is being rescinded? It's now up to Congress. Write to me at @Lookner on Twitter. Let me know. We'll read your comment on the air. Also, if you like our coverage, please consider making a donation because we are viewer supported. Your donations keep us on the air. You can donate by going to the YouTube chat and clicking the $ at the bottom of the YouTube chat, or going to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. And last but not least, don't forget, subscribe to us on YouTube and click the notifications bell so you get notified whenever we come on the air with these breaking news videos. We do it all the time at all hours. Okay, let's get back to some of your comments here. Bob for USA writes, if President Obama had done this right and constitutionally, none of this would have happened. Trump was right in ending it. If there is to be a DACA again, Congress has to do it right and make it constitutional. Trumping the Globe says, I'm totally for it. As a disabled vet, we can use that money to help the vets who really need immediate help. And I think you're saying money that might be going to, in some form, to DACA recipients. Although they don't get money through DACA. They would have to get some, if you're talking about money they get, maybe you're talking about wages or something like that they might be getting. Elizabeth Burwell says, good morning, Steve. It's about time we look at the laws enacted and on the books. Maybe now Congress will actually start getting busy and do some work for a change. One can always hope. Clinton Body Count says, DACA people are eligible for Social Security benefits. I was for keeping DACA, but the more I study it, the more I agree with ending it. I'm not aware of this. I didn't think they were eligible for Social Security benefits. I can Google it. Now, maybe they pay Social Security taxes if they work at jobs and they pay taxes on them. So Washington Post says, in general, people who are here illegally don't get Social Security. This is one of these things I need to look up more, though. I'm not going to find an answer in a minute. So the jury is out. I need to go research that more. More of your comments here. Denny Sanders says, Trump and the Department of Justice are doing the right thing. The executive order is not legal. Obama admitted that in 2011, immigration law has to be left to Congress. Let's see here. Camilla Zapolsky says, I think it was Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals that ruled this unconstitutional. Obama ignored court decision. Now, a federal judge did declare that DAPA, which was President Obama's proposed extension of DACA, was unconstitutional. And something Jeff Sessions was talking about today, which we talked about in the pre-show, is that DACA as is was thought by many to be subject to a legal challenge, because there are legal experts who think for the same reasons DAPA was declared unconstitutional, if DACA was challenged in federal court, DACA would be declared unconstitutional. And as we talked about in the pre-show, a number of states, 9 different states, are currently threatening to sue in federal court to get DACA gotten rid of, overturned, however you want to say it, or to get an order against DACA, or to, I guess you could say overturned, to get DACA shown to be unconstitutional. And President Trump actually faced a deadline. He faced a deadline of today. If he didn't do something about DACA today, these states said that they were going to file a suit in court. So given that that's the case, I don't think you can categorically say President Trump's announcement today is categorically against DACA, because legal experts, a number of legal experts, thought this suit was going to happen and DACA would be struck down by the courts. And what President Trump has said is, he's actually said, rather than saying, I totally hate DACA, we're ending it, he said, he even tweeted out this morning, he said, it's time for Congress to do their job. I mean, I can show you. He said and he said DACA exclamation point. So he didn't have to do this. But, you could, I think one could plausibly read this tweet here that I'm going to show you in 2 seconds. I think one can plausibly read this tweet as the president saying, look, I'm open to DACA, just Congress, it's up to Congress to do it. So I certainly don't, I think it would be unfair to say, if someone were to say President Trump is doing as much as he can to get rid of DACA and doesn't support it at all, that's kind of an extreme position, because he is openly encouragingly, He's openly encouraging, seemingly, Congress to do something about DACA, which he didn't have to do. And also remember, if he just did nothing and said nothing, it looked like DACA was going to be ruled. There was going to be a lawsuit filed against it, which very well might win. One might argue that by announcing this today, President Trump has perhaps made those states reconsider filing the lawsuit. I'm not aware that the states are filing the lawsuit. So at this point, the states, because there's the states have nothing actually to file a lawsuit on now because there's no executive policy of DACA. So there won't be this policy, but so my point is just this. I think if someone says President Trump is doing as much as he can to get rid of DACA and hates DACA, I think that's a bit of an extreme position given what the president's tweet and how he said that it's up to Congress. And even what Jeff Sessions said. Jeff Sessions said he never said in his speech, if Congress passes a DACA bill, we're going to veto it. He said nothing of the sort. All he said is, DACA is not a part of Congress-made immigration law. Therefore, we're not going to enforce DACA because it's not part of the law. That's all he said. He didn't say anything against the possibility of Congress passing a DACA law, which he and many believe is really the responsibility of Congress anyway, because it's not up to the president. So that's what he said. I worry. I'm not watching mainstream media right now. I worry that distinction is going to get lost in a lot of coverage and in a lot of protests, and that people will just say, oh, well, President Trump said he hates immigrants and he hates DACA and he canceled it. It's a little more complex than that. And I personally think that it's entirely consistent, and there are plenty of people out there who do, on the one hand, think DACA should be kept, but on the other hand, think it should be Congress passing it because it's not part of the law, and it should be part of the law if it's going to be enforced. And many of you have written in and said that. So anyways, okay, let's get back to more of your comments. This is Right Side Broadcasting. Please write to me if you have comments on what Attorney General Sessions announced today about the new Trump policy rescinding DACA. Write to me at @Lookner on Twitter, at LOOKNER. Feel free to follow me on Twitter too, because if you like breaking news, because I cover breaking news all the time on my Twitter. And you can follow Right Side Broadcasting on Twitter at RSB Network, and subscribe to us on YouTube and click the notifications bell when you do to get all of our videos. And also, we love when you share the video on Facebook and like it on YouTube, because that spreads the word about Right Side. We're not a wealthy organization. We don't have money to advertise, so that helps us spread the word about Right Side. Thank you again to the chat moderators today, by the way. Okay, let's get some more of your comments. Polite Individual says, Polite Individual, this sort of goes on the over the line a little bit, this message, so I can't really read it. Let's see, you wrote another message too that I might be able to read. Camilla Zapolsky, no, I don't see another message there, but I apologize. Certain ones, when they get, when we start talking about racial or ethnic groups and stuff like that, we sometimes won't read those. But we, in general, have a censor-free policy. We try to be as censor-free as we can. Camilla Zapolsky says, these dreamers are average 26 years old. They can apply for legal citizenship. We need to respect the rule of law. Proud American says, Tom Perez is ranting about the DACA decision. I haven't had a chance to check it. I'll have to check it later. Victor Bonilla says the nation will collapse economically. I guess you mean if the people who are here on DACA doing jobs leave the country or are thrown out of the country. You say that. Victoria says Sessions is doing the job that the president has appointed to him to do. DACA is unconstitutional and needs to be rescinded. Joan of Arc says, let's hear it for the brilliance of the founding fathers. By the way, thank you. Candy Cannibal made a $2 donation, said, as a DACA member, I agree DACA is unconstitutional. Now, I can't confirm that Candy Cannibal is a DACA member, but I really do appreciate the donation, Candy. Thank you so much. And also, Space Monkey gave $5 and says, I would like to see some congressional committee hearings on this. And Bliss Girl gave $5 too. Thank you guys so much for your donations. And Carl Peterson gave $5, said exceptional coverage. Thanks, RSBN. Your donations keep us on the air, so if you like our coverage, please consider donations. You can just go to the chat room and click on the $ sign at the bottom of the chat room, Or you can, and Cannibal just gave another donation and said, we hope for Congress to pass the DREAM Act 2017. And James Wolf just gave $50. Thank you, James. And he said, promises made, promises kept. Quit whining and get in line, DACAs. So thank you guys for the donations. Those help us be on the air and cover the news for you. So if you want to donate, go to the YouTube chat room, click on the $ sign at the bottom of the chat room, or go to rsbn.tv/donate. And write to me at @Lookner on Twitter. I want to read some more of your comments. Trying to get to all of them. There's a lot of comments, but I'm doing my best. Roxanne says, Sessions said nothing about 6 months. Will my city, Chicago, burn tonight? Trump did keep another promise. Great question, Roxanne. We were actually wondering a couple days ago when word first came out about what this policy announcement was going to be. Will there be protests? Will there be violent protests? I'm not so sure. People who followed the news like pretty intensely knew what the announcement was going to be today, but I'm guessing a lot of people who are busy or who don't follow the news that much didn't know this was going to be announced today. I'm guessing we will see a lot of people. Look, I know a lot of people aren't going to be happy about this in this country. You know, there's a lot of people who are and people who aren't. But will we see protests, violence, some of that today, tonight? We'll keep an eye on it for you, and we'll certainly get on the air if something big happens, and if we can get footage of it. So we'll be watching for this. If you want to know when we're coming on the air with our live videos, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and click the notifications bell so you get notified when we come on the air live. We Will Prevail says, Session... Oh, no, we already read that. Let me read some more messages from you guys. Let's see. Delilah Suarez says, Trump is the new Hitler. What have illegals done to him? Why is he so motivated to get everyone out of here? Immigrants made the USA. So I think as an answer, if Jeff Sessions and President Trump were here right now, Delilah, I think that what they would say is just what they said in their speech, which is that they think it's very important for this country to maintain the rule of law. And they think when the president tries to put into place a policy which is not the president's constitutional right to do so, it really weakens the country and threatens the rule of law in the country. And so that's what they'd say. I'm not saying I advocate one side or the other. I'm just saying that's what I think they would say to you. Anonymous says, Dear Steve, as a Mexican, I feel like you are right in several ways. However, I love my tacos and don't want any to be removed. Thank you. I have to imagine that might be a joke post and not an actual accurate post. Now, see, that's one, if I knew what the ending was going to be, I might not read on the air. But it wasn't like, while it might have been insensitive, it didn't have swear words in it, and it didn't. So anyways, I try to avoid reading things like that. But hey, once in a while they slip through. Trumping the Globe says, Mark, I would rather watch you. Mark, I'm not Mark, I'm Steve. Anyways, Trumping the Globe says, I would rather watch you than any other news agency online. Keep good, great job, keep it up. Thank you. We appreciate it. Delilah Suarez continues, we pay our taxes. I am against him taking DACA away from us. We will all stand together while the USA is falling apart and falling. He's ruining America. He's the charismatic leader of mass deception such as Charles Manson. He's only made it to become a U.S. president. He's made to become a U.S. president due to a bunch of blank racist fools. So Delilah, clearly not a fan of President Trump and this decision today. Oh, did Nancy Pelosi send out a tweet or something? Or an email? Oh, okay. So Ed O'Keefe, all right, I'll show you this. Texas Cowboy alerted me to this. So hold on, I'll pull it up on the screen here. So Ed O'Keefe posted, who's from Washington Post. Here's what Ed O'Keefe posted. Ed O'Keefe says, DACA is over, send campaign dollars. That's what Nancy Pelosi asked in a Democratic Congressional Competitiveness Committee. I don't remember. DCCC. Anyways, no, I'm going to look it up. I'm going to look it up right now and tell you what DCCC stands for. Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee. She just sent out a letter that says, it's a fundraising pitch, and it says, I'm sick to my stomach. This morning, young immigrants across the country are panicking because President Trump just announced his plan to end DACA. It quite possibly is the cruelest thing President Trump has ever done. It breaks my heart, but it also lights a fire in me to fight back. It's up to us to stand. And she asked for money in the message. I need you to take a stand, sign your name alongside mine, and condemn Trump. Well, I guess it doesn't strictly speaking ask for money, but I'm guessing if you click the link, you probably get pitched for money. Anyways, that was sent out. That was sent out by Nancy Pelosi in the DCCC right after the announcement. I wonder if President Obama has said anything yet on his Twitter. Let's see. I'm looking at President Obama's Twitter, and I see nothing yet. I'm expecting we might see some sort of statement from President Obama soon. Let's see. Steph writes in, lawsuits, activists, judges, living constitution, the enemy is inside the gates. Faye Mills says, this will be putting Congress on the chopping block too, because it lets Americans see who is for America or against. 2018 coming. Polyshop is saying she's watching CNN, and they're implying Trump wanted to keep DACA. Now, and you say they're also saying he was not happy with the DACA decision. Well, you know, his hand was forced perhaps because there was going to be this lawsuit against DACA and he had to do something about it. So, you know, we've talked about earlier in this program how it's possible President Trump actually wants to keep DACA and felt that the way to do it is to get Congress to pass a law because there was going to be this lawsuit that might overturn DACA, that might result in DACA getting thrown out by the courts. So, you know, now, even if that's the case, he could have just still not made an announcement and let the lawsuit went through. But maybe he thought it was better to not let the lawsuit go through and tell Congress to pass something. So, or maybe he doesn't want to keep DACA. It's hard. I'm not him, so I can't really say. If you have comments on this, I want to hear what you think about this announcement we just heard from Jeff Sessions about DACA. Write to me on Twitter at Lookner, at Lookner. Charlie Fraley says, we love immigrants. Come here legally and follow our laws and love this country as we do, and our world can be yours too. Mike Laws writes in, yeah, 0.15% of the population is going to tank the economy. Hyperbole much? Let's see here. Black and Proud says, Trump is the master negotiator. We will get the wall and an immigration bill. Hilly Volko writes, Obama broke the law, causes chaos, then Trump has to reinforce law. Republicans can't do their job on DACA or healthcare reform or tax reform, so we need to give all of them their pink slips because they're all political cowards and inept. So don't you Republicans worry, you will be replaced. Also, Obama's dad was kicked out of country for opposing constitutional views, and his son Obama is worse than his dad. He needed to go 8 years ago. You know, I'm not even aware of the story about Obama's dad and whether that's true or not. I'm going to do a quick Google search. I might not be able to confirm or deny that. He was forced to leave Harvard University. Telegraph says Barack Obama's father was forced out of U.S. An April 1961 memo said a University of Hawaii employee called to report that Mr. Obama Sr. had married the future president's mother. Hold on. I'm not going to linger on this. I'll have to read this later. He was forced out of the U.S. in the 1960s amid concerns about his Playboy's way. It has emerged. This is from the Telegraph. I need to read this. I'm not familiar with this story. I can't confirm or deny it, so I'll read it later. Go on to Google if you want to research more about it. Let's see here. Leon writes, DACA is about young people who came to this country through no fault of their own. It's the only country they know, and that's a Paul Ryan quote. And I guess, Leon, that means you support DACA and want to see it continue. Les Cart says, aren't these dreamers now an asset to their country of origin? Which is, I think you're saying that their country should be happy to have them back. We Will Prevail says, violent protests will occur by Antifa, U.S. citizens, U.S. citizens, dreamers will not risk early deportation. Trump Swimming says, waiting for crazy McCain to get on camera to complain the president wants to follow the law. Let me do a real quick check here of what. I'm going to check my Twitter feed. And hold on one second, guys. And guys, we've been getting some questions about Irma, as we've been saying on earlier in the broadcast and yesterday. Yes, we will cover Hurricane Irma if it hits the United States, and we might even cover it if it hits the Caribbean, if we can get footage. So, just to say that again. Oh, and there will be a White House press briefing today at 1:30 Eastern. 1:30 Eastern press briefing, which should be quite interesting because I'm sure there will be a ton of questions on this. I'm actually just making sure that our home office knows. So I'm guessing we'll do a new stream for that. We'll take a little break here and then do a new stream for that. So be sure, watch the briefing coverage on Right Side Broadcasting. We're going to do a pre-show for that and a post-show. And it's 11:44 now. So we'll go on a little early before the briefing. We'll do a little more here. Then we'll take a little break. Then we'll come back on the air. And so if you want to know about our videos, subscribe to us on YouTube. Click the notifications bell. That way you'll get notified whenever we come on the air to do a live broadcast like this. Some news here. Here's some news, guys. Just some news I'm seeing. Javier Palomares, president and CEO of the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, resigns from Trump Diversity Coalition over DACA. Let's see if I can... I'm just looking to see if there's any more... Paul Ryan made a statement. What is his statement? If it's not long, I'll read it. If it is long, I won't read it. Here is Paul Ryan's statement on DACA, which he just released. However well-intentioned, President Obama's DACA program was a clear abuse of executive authority, an attempt to create law out of thin air. Just as the courts have already struck down similar Obama policy, this was never a viable long-term solution to this challenge. Congress writes laws, not the president, and ending this program fulfills a promise that President Trump made to restore the proper role of the executive and legislative branches. But now there is more to do, and the president has called on Congress to act. The president's announcement does not revoke permits immediately, and it is important that those affected have clarity on how this interim period will be carried out. At the heart of this issue are young people who came to this country through no fault of their own, and for many of them it's the only country they know. Their status is one of many immigration issues such as border security and interior enforcement, which Congress has failed to adequately address over the years. It is my hope that the House and Senate, with the President's leadership, will be able to find consensus on a permanent legislative solution that includes ensuring that those who have done nothing wrong can still contribute as a valued part of this great country. So, excuse me, that sounds like Speaker Ryan supports some sort of DACA bill. We'll see if it gets passed. But again, that was a statement just released by Speaker Paul Ryan. Just trying to catch up on any kind of other statements here or news that just came out. Here, and again, the press secretary, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, will have an on-camera press briefing in a little less than an hour and 45 minutes at 1:30 Eastern. So there will be, it might be an all DACA briefing. Even though like North Korea stuff is happening, it might just be all about DACA. And thank you. Coral Ocean just gave $5 and says, thank you, especially covering all of Trump's campaign. Yes, If you watched the rallies during President Trump's campaign, you probably were watching it on Right Side Broadcasting, because we were the company that first sent out cameras, and we were the only ones showing the full rallies and not, just showing little snippets of it. And we showed the crowds. We were the only ones doing that too. So thank you. And if you'd like to donate to us and enjoy our programming, we are viewer supported. We rely on your support to stay on the air. So if you like this programming, please consider making a donation. You can either go to the YouTube chat and click the $ at the bottom of the chat room, or you can go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. Let me get to some more of your messages. Write to me on Twitter @Lookner. We're taking messages and hearing your feedback about this DACA decision. Do you think it was a good decision or not? Let me know. I'll read your comment on the air. Also, feel free to follow me on Twitter. I cover breaking news all the time if you like that kind of thing. I'm at @Lookner. Right Side Broadcasting is at RSB Network. We Will Prevail says, my guess is that Trump would prefer a more fair deal for the Dreamers, who, in my opinion, have been unfairly strung along by the Democrats. Ronald says, why don't these protest groups go down and help clean up in Texas? Captain Reynolds says, as a nation, we can have open borders or a welfare system. We cannot have both. What does our nation want more? Roxanne says it is not right to blame Trump. This is Obama's mess. Les Cart says we need to allow current immigrants time to assimilate. Enough with these amnesties. Let's get Congress to work for the American people. Leon agrees with me that Ryan seems to want a DACA bill passed. And Save First Amendment says, Steve, the president has passed a hot potato to Congress. It is the legal correct thing to do, and politically the smart thing as well. This will give leverage to the president to attach any DACA bill to a broader immigration reform bill under duress of possible veto. So you think that the president will want Congress to have DACA be included in a broader immigration bill, perhaps with wall funding or something? Although that might make it even harder to pass the DACA bill. Couple more messages. Griselda Ruiz writes in, as a DACA recipient, we do not get any benefits. That's from Griselda Ruiz. Wesley Ringwood writes in, deporting the Dreamers would have a damaging impact on the U.S. economy. The pro-business president is not making a smart decision by doing this. 90% of DACA recipients are in school, have jobs, or starting more businesses on their own. They aren't occupying many of the blue-collar jobs. They are more likely to have the white-collar jobs. They are helping out the U.S. economy with these taxes as well. These children should not be deported. This is their home, and they are Americans. Let's see here. Dato Kenneth Kolb says, Steve, the president has passed the hot potato to the Congress. It is the legal correct thing to do and politically the smart thing as well. I already read that. Sorry. Greg Jackson says, my take on his points is that Trump has positioned the congressional Republicans in an untenable situation. Considering that the vast majority of them are unwilling to give any support for the president, it certainly is par for the course. They have consistently put Trump on the hot seat by going to the media and making themselves the harbinger of decency. Well, now, after stifling the president's agenda in every way imaginable, they are faced with the realization of doing their job. All these Republicans were demanding the president not end the DACA program. In so doing, it remains out of their hands, and the responsibility would be the president's. Instead, what the president has given them is a return to their constitutional role. 6 months or it is ended. It hasn't occurred to me before, but this is brilliant. What do they do? Eric Cantor's high-level position didn't protect him and many of the constituents of these Republicans. And many of these constituents of these Republicans do not want DACA either. If they follow their constituents, the media will never let them live it down. If they don't, they may not survive the midterms. No longer can they sit on the sidelines and complain without impunity. I think you mean with impunity. Trump has put them in the position they have put him in. They have put him in many times in the past. Perhaps Trump is a better politician than given credit for. Hiep Ho says, hi Steve, AG Sessions said clearly the majority of recipients of DACA are adults. Can we not prefer as children only that are affected, because that's what the other side makes it as inhumane on President Trump's decision? Well, now, after stifling the president's agenda in every way imaginable, they are faced with the realization of doing their job. All these Republicans were demanding the president not end the DACA program. In so doing, it remains out of their hands, and the responsibility would be the president's. Becky says, I am wondering if Obama should be held accountable for illegally legislating DACA, be arrested. I don't believe there's any law against the president putting into place some regulation which is later declared to be unconstitutional. Griselda says, people this country to be a rule of law. We were working legally and paying our dues. Why take DACA away? We were put through a deep background check and are good Americans. DACA was bringing a ton of money, $495, I think you mean dollars, maybe taxes or something. I'm not taking anyone's money. That's from Griselda. Bill DeWall says, the USA's education system is quite liberal. It will be interesting to see how these liberally educated people infect, not affect, their homelands. There are more Asians in the USA than Mexico, wishing all of them the very best in their new life. Jimmy McPherson says, as a citizen of Canada, this means that the flooding of your illegals here will increase in Quebec and Manitoba. Wake up, Trudeau. Joanne Goldsnyder says, Steve, some are saying it's not their fault their parents brought them here at a young age. My question is, why didn't they get themselves documented when they became over 16? There's no procedure, I believe, for them to get documented. There was no procedure. Now, maybe you're saying, why didn't they apply as citizens? But if they apply as citizens, that wouldn't make them legal. I mean, and maybe if they apply to be citizens, they would have to, they might even have to leave the country, because I would think if you apply as a citizen and you're illegally in the country, they would just say, well, we're not going to make you a citizen because you're illegally in the country right now. So I don't think there was a way for them to just make themselves become citizens when they became 16. BLB Reed says, what about the 800,000 Americans who, through no fault of their own, must compete with DACA recipients and their descendants for jobs, college, etc.? Ryan Bardwell says, Fox is showing protesters and looters at Trump Tower. We'll keep an eye on our protest stuff. We can't just show you Fox's footage, but at the same time, we'll keep an eye on the protests, and if we have stuff we can show you, we will show you. And I could actually do this. Oh, Carol Lewis had posted this on Twitter, and I guess there were some arrests at Trump Tower right now. And that's a tweet, her tweet, where she shows these protests. So I guess there's a big protest going on at Trump Tower. I'll show you. Oops, sorry. I'll kill the volume. But that's a protest going on at Trump Tower right now. And here's a tweet sent out by somebody named Michael Skolnick. NYC Trump Tower protest now defend. Let me see if I can do something else here. Oops, I don't want to do that. Give me 1 second here. Charlie Haynes Santa just gave $5 and said, does DACA support America where the America flag? I don't see it. I see them use F words and burn America flag. Support America first. Shanta, thank you for your donation. We do appreciate it. It helps us stay on the air. Okay, Joe, I got your message. Thank you. I'm not going to talk about that, no, Joe, right now on the air, but if you want me to, let me know. Give me 1 sec, guys, here. I'm looking for something. Nope, that didn't help me. I'm just seeing what I can hear about the New York protests. Okay. Anyway, we'll keep an eye on the protests going on for you. And again, we're going to have this briefing coming up at 1:30 Eastern Time. In an hour and a half, Sarah Sanders is giving a White House press briefing. All right, I think what we're going to do right now is actually we're going to stay on for a few more minutes here, and then in a few minutes we're going to go off, take a little break, and then come back on for the White House press briefing. So we want to do that. So if you have more comments, get them in now. Write to me now at Lookner on Twitter, at LOOKNER, if you have any comments about the president's DACA announcement. And also, you can follow me on Twitter if you'd like, especially if you like breaking news. I cover that all the time. Follow Right Side at RSB Network, and subscribe to us on YouTube and click the notifications bell. That way, whenever we come on the air with a live breaking news video, we do it all the time, you will get a notification about it. And thank you for the donations. We really appreciate it. Your donations keep us on the air. It's how we stay on the air. So if you'd like to donate, go to the $ at the bottom of the YouTube chat room, or just go to rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. And I'm just making sure I've gotten to a fair amount of the messages here. Andy Stephen writes in, he had heard that Republicans are drafting full amnesty on all Dreamers, with also exceptions to allow families to come with the Dreamers. Now, it's certainly possible the Republicans could pass a Dreamer bill that's even more expensive than DACA. Personally, though, I think it's going to be hard for them to even pass DACA, so I would be surprised if they passed a more expansive bill than DACA. Also, if they tried to pass a more expansive bill than DACA, the president could always veto it. So we'll just have to see what happens in Congress. Let's see. BLB Reed says it is typical that DACA and progressives protest the ending of a probably illegal program. They don't care about American law at all. Okay, I think what we're going to do now is we're going to wrap up this stream right now. We're going to take a little bit of a break because we've been on the air covering the whole hearing and doing our pre-show, and then we're going to start up a new stream. Joe, let me know if that sounds like an okay plan to you, because I don't want to do it without letting you know. Joe is producing; he's the CEO of Right Side. But I think that's probably the best thing to do, because we're going to do a whole new event for this press briefing that's coming up, and we're definitely looking forward to hearing what Sarah Sanders has to say and all the questions she's going to be asked about this. Okay, cool. So we're going to do that. Okay, so we will be back here, I would say, well, definitely within the hour, but maybe half an hour, 45 minutes from now, we'll come back on the air for a pre-show for the White House press briefing with Sarah Sanders. That press briefing is at 1:30 Eastern, so we'll be on the air 12:30, 12:45-ish. Let's say 12:45 to be safe and not disappoint anyone. Then we'll do a pre-show for the briefing. We'll talk more about this stuff. We'll talk about the press briefing coming up. Maybe talk about North Korea, the hurricane, some other issues. Then we'll watch the press briefing here live at Right Side, and then we will do a post show for that. So a full day of coverage here at Right Side Broadcasting. Hope you're enjoying our coverage. And remember, subscribe to us on YouTube and click the notifications bell. Follow us on Facebook, Right Side Broadcasting. Follow us on Twitter at RSB Network. You can follow me on Twitter at Lookner. Thanks everybody for sending in all your comments today. Very much appreciated. And for everybody who donated, and to all the moderators who worked so hard in the chat rooms, and to Joe for producing and doing his usual excellent job. So, and don't forget, if you'd like to donate and help support us being on the air, rsbn.tv/donate, rsbn.tv/donate. For now, I am Steve Lookner. We'll see you back here in a little bit, hopefully. Join us soon for our coverage of the White House press briefing. We'll be on in about 45 minutes. You can find us at the Right Side Broadcasting page on YouTube, or just subscribe to us on YouTube and you'll get a notification if you click the notifications bell. So join us in about 45 minutes for our coverage of the White House press briefing today. It's sure to be quite a press briefing today. You might see there hasn't been some hostility in a while. I think you might see some hostility today. Who knows? So join us for that. We'll be back soon. But for now, I am Steve Lookner for Right Side Broadcasting saying see you soon and have a good day.